Hi everybody, thank you so much for inviting me to address you all today for the Yorkshire North and East District. Apologies I'm not with you in person, or I'm not with you live virtually. Right now I am actually sat in Hessel Town Hall talking to constituents about some of the issues they face. I do a monthly surgery and most members of Parliament do. A lot of the times people are happy just to chat to me on the phone, but there are times when people think the best way to discuss things is face to face, and so that's where I am right now. But as you can see from my background, I'm actually recording this from the Houses of Parliament, in fact sat in the old shadow cabinet room. And the memories I'm sure that this room has should helpfully inspire the words in which I want to discuss with you all right now. Because I think it's fair to say that these are incredibly difficult times, and never has there been a greater need for the churches and for Christians to be that salt and that light and make a difference in their communities. At the last year, the Trussell Trust gave out 2.1 million food parcels, 2.1 million food parcels to families desperate to have something to eat. The data is already showing that we expect there to be another 500,000 children living in poverty last year. I think the normalisation of poverty is a huge problem. We don't seem shocked by these figures or by this data any longer. In 2010, UNICEF fundraised to provide food for hungry children here in the UK. UNICEF, an organisation that we normally associate with providing food for third world and developing countries, was providing food for children here in the UK because they just didn't have enough to eat. We're already discussing ideas like warm banks, areas for families to go and keep warm, because the social security net, the net that was there to catch people when they fell, is broken, and it's been broken for a very long time. It's been broken for over a decade as things have gradually become much more difficult. There's been a long decline in living standards, a long increase in the difference between those people with the most money in society and those with the least. We've seen the changes to benefits and the way that's impacted children and families in our communities. And with inflation running at 10%, it's going to get even harder. And one of, I think, the most frightening graphs out there, which you can all take a look at, is that one that explains how much of a proportion of someone's income they're going to be having to spend on energy. And those with the least money coming in are going to be spending the greatest proportion just trying to cover their energy bills. It's unsustainable. The system as it is has broken. We're now relying on churches, on faith groups, on charities and volunteers to provide, as we have in Hull, baby milk for children, clothing for babies, essential equipment, because it's accepted that families simply can't afford them themselves. The Methodist Church has been amazing in Hull, setting up re-uniform from the Trinity Church. And just this summer, the numbers of people asking for uniform have been incredible. Hundreds of people have been contacting the church, asking them to help with the cost of school uniform, because it's one of those additional expenses that people just simply can't afford right now. And there are many reasons why we're facing the situation we are. And I promise I won't get party political with you all. But one reason I do want to mention is because what we're seeing from Putin is an economic war as well as a military one. The rising energy cost is fueling part of the rise in inflation, and we're facing the consequences. And it's going to be difficult to maintain that Western unity as citizens right across the West grapple with some of the difficulties that we're facing, albeit their systems may be more robust to cope with them than ours are at the moment. So if we are going to continue to support the Ukrainians, then we do need to come up with a longer term solution for some of the problems people here face. We need to end this normalisation of poverty. It's not normal for schools in Hull, West and Hessel to be providing food pantries. It's not right for there to be queues of people waiting outside a food pantry in the Octagon where my office is every single Friday, and for those numbers to be ever increasing, and for some of the people who go to them to be people and families in work. We can't accept this any longer. Of course, as a politician, I believe the best way to change things is to change the law. It's why I'm a legislator. It's why I want to get in there and change the system from above. And it can feel sometimes overwhelming. There is just so much that needs to be done. So many people that we need to help. But I always think no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And I know that so many of you listening to my message right now want to do something and want to make that change to support and help people. And while yes, it's not going to change things forever, and we need the law change to make that change happen, but we can really make a difference to some of those families that are struggling with ideas like warm banks, reuniform, food delivery, food pantries. I'm sure you've all got hundreds of ideas of some of the differences the church can be out there in the community making that difference, because it goes to the core of who we are and what we stand for and what our values are and how our values compel us to be out there being that salt and light and making that difference. I mean, John Wesley himself, his understanding of Christianity argued that we should be out there helping those most in need. And I quoted him recently when he said, "So wickedly, deviously false is that common objection. They are only poor because they are idle." And his words speak to us today, speak to us right now, that we should be out there not only supporting people in these communities, but also making the case that we do not condemn people for poverty. We support them during their time of difficulties, and in my case, we campaign and we act to change it. So I suppose my key message to all of you, or what I hope you'll take from this and the words I'm giving, is it's time for action. We can't sit back and continue to allow the decline for so many families that we're seeing. I'm getting inundated with contacts from people, working families, single mothers, pensioners, all facing difficulties, all facing problems. And we know things are going to get worse during the winter. But we can be that difference, we can be that light, whether that's physically providing something for someone or emotionally providing something. Emotionally being there to support people, advocating for them, supporting them, helping them navigate the complexities of the benefit system and how it all works, being that source of advice, being a friend, or as I think of it myself, walking beside them, holding their hand. So I hope that's given some ideas of some of the things that we can do and why we should do it and the difference that we can make. And I look forward to seeing you all at some point in the future, hearing about the differences that you're making in your communities. And of course, it goes without saying, being here to champion and support you and working towards our ultimate aim, which is when charities, faith groups and churches no longer need to provide any of this. But until that happens, it's good to know there are good people out there doing good things. So thank you for inviting me, and see you all soon.